So the 2024 Contender Series season has now come to a close, and I did do a full series review of the entire 2024 season in a video, but now I'm going to do it in a tier list format, and instead of just talking about the fighters and how I think that their fights went, I'm now going to rank all of the fighters in a tier list on how I think that they are going to do in the UFC, with the top one being championship potential. Now, potential was kind of a key word here. This doesn't really mean that I think that they're going to become the champion, because that really is an exclusive list of fighters, but these are fighters that I think may get a title shot, or at least are going to put themselves in the conversation to be in a title shot, like someone who I think has the potential to be a top 5 ranked fighter and really kind of push the names of potentially headline at a pay-per-view and being in a title fight. Top 15 potential means that I think that they've got ranked potential. I think that this is a very good prospect that could have a number beside their name, and if they don't have a number beside their name, they may as well, like how Hayoni Barcelos did a couple of years ago. He was top 15 in all of our hearts. And then multiple years in the UFC, this does just mean that I think that they are going to still have a great career, but I don't think they're really going to break the boundary of that ranked position necessarily, but I do think that they are going to have at least 10 fights in the UFC and fight through multiple contracts. Less than 5 fights just means what I think it does, and probably what you guys think it does. I don't think that I'm going to see them in the UFC for too much longer. It is really sad, but a lot of these guys from the Contender Series don't necessarily have the longest careers in the promotion. And then Wildcard is Wildcard. I think that these guys are a little bit too early to tell. I don't really know if they're going to be ranked. I don't know if they're going to maybe burn out quickly, or they're just going to be a lot of fun no matter how long they are in the promotion. Now, I didn't make this tier list. I will give the credit to Lobby Brawler on X. But aside from that, now let's get into it. The first fighter, although he didn't fight on the week 1 card, was Kevin Vallejos here. I know a lot of people think he could be up here. I'm going to put him at top 15. I'm going to try and make the breakdowns pretty quick, because this could easily be a 45-minute video. It probably will still end up being a 45-minute video, but Kevin Vallejos, I do think that he has ranked potential. This is a guy that does have very good technical boxing. I think he's very good eyes in the pocket. The grappling is coming along. You do see a lot of grappling in more of his recent fights when he does fight for Samurai Fight House, who do have a massive card this weekend on YouTube, so shout out to them. But yes, Kevin Vallejos, a lot of people are very high on him. I'm high on him as well. He has a lot of hype. I would like to see him fight sometime soon in an ideal world. I believe this is Bruno Lopez. Bruno Lopez, I was so high on him, man. And then he lost to Brenton Ribeiro. And then he fought for the LFA again, and he looked really bad in that fight. He looked really bad in his fight against the guy from Georgia on the Contender Series. This guy, I just don't really love it. 205 pounds is a tough division to be in, man. Like, it's a very shallow division, as in there's only 35 fighters at 205 pounds, and I feel like there is some guys that really are at the bottom, but I also think that there isn't that much difference between the guy that's ranked 25th and the guy that's ranked 15th, necessarily. And to really establish a name for yourself at 205 pounds, you're either going to have to get favourable matchups, or you're going to have to win fights against some pretty tough guys, and I just don't think that Lopez has the speed to do it. Mansour Abdul Malik is actually going to go in my wildcard spot, because I could see him in the rankings at some point. But also with him, I think that he's kind of a fighter that has a very high ceiling, but also a little bit of a low floor as well, if that makes sense. I know that's terminology that a lot of people use for like basketball and other sports, but he does have a lot of great skills. I mean, this guy has great speed. He's got great power. He can pick guys up with his wrestling and dump them down and get ground and pound, but that's all well and good, but I would really like to see the striking come along a little bit more. The cardio is still a bit of a question mark. Now, his fight against Wes Schultz was just a war, a wrestling war that's going to drain anybody, so I don't really have too much concerns necessarily about that. But in his career so far, we really just have him seen knockout and beat guys that he's been very heavily favoured to beat. I do think he's got a UFC debut coming up against Dusko Tudorovic, which I do think he's going to win, but he is still a wild card for me. I think that there is chance for him to go very high, but I think there's also chance for him maybe to not go so high. But I do think that he's a very good, promising fighter. Jose Delgado, I like Jose Delgado. I think this guy is also a bit of a wild card, I'm going to say, but I'm going to put him in the multiple years in the UFC. He took on Ernie Juarez on short notice, looked good, had better cardio in that matchup despite the short notice matchup. Very tall guy for 145 pounds. He has the striking, he's got the wrestling, he's got the grappling. I think this guy probably is a bit of a wild card, but I don't want to put everyone in the wild card, and I'm not fully confident that he's going to break the top 15 because I feel like the top 15, that is the top 15 of the division. Will put him in the multiple years in the UFC. Lorna Kavanagh, I'm also going to put him in the top 15 potential. Now, a lot of people think that he's got championship potential. I do respect that, but I'm still not fully sure yet. Actually, no, he does have championship potential, doesn't he? I'm going to put him at championship potential. I am going to put him at champ potential because now that I think about it, he does have amazing speed for the weight class. And the fact that we saw him just smoke Antoine Ho like that was amazing because I thought that Antoine Ho versus Lorna Kavanagh was going to be a 15-minute war, and Lorna Kavanagh knocked him out in the first round. So Lorna Kavanagh's got very, very fast boxing, and at 125 pounds, everyone's fast, but Lorna Kavanagh's faster, and I do like him actually to have championship potential. I think this guy's good. He's got grappling that's coming along. When I was doing my Dana White's Contender Series breakdown, people were messaging me claiming that they knew him and that his grappling was being improved. So maybe we see that in his next fight because he's taking on a primary striker in Macau, which could be quite cool. But now we can move up to Andreas Gustafsson. Wild card. I mean, this guy, I wasn't very confident picking him against Pat Pitlick, and he did beat Pat Pitlick. He knocked him out. He looked okay. It was a fun fight, though. And if you watch any of Andreas Gustafsson's fights, this guy is a wild man. Like, he is insane power, but he takes so much damage, and he takes so much damage, I could actually potentially see him in this category, but because he's such a wild fighter, he could knock anyone out on his night. So there is chance for him actually to kind of go up a little bit, but I think he's kind of in this sort of territory, but he's a wild card. And this guy's going to be a lot of fun, no matter how many times he's in the UFC. I cannot wait to see him. And now we have a man whose name has slipped my mind, and this is what I really did worry about. He's the heavyweight from Russia that beat Renan Ferreira, who just lost to Francis Ngannou, and he was on like 4 steroids at the time when he fought for the PFL, and his name still slips my mind, but you guys know who I'm talking about, hopefully. I think he's good. Here's the thing about heavyweight. A lot of the time when you see guys at heavyweight, you don't really see guys with all of that much skill, and although you can tell that old mate here wasn't in as good shape as he was when he was fighting for the PFL, I think he's good. I do genuinely think he's good, and just beating Renan Ferreira by pressuring Renan Ferreira backwards on the feet and taking him down. I know that Francis Ngannou took him down and smoked him. I still think that does put you in like top 5 potential at heavyweight. I do think that this guy is pretty legit. I think that he actually is kind of like Shamil Gaziev, but not in love with the Macas, I guess you could say, and that's kind of where I'm going to go with him. Then we have Cortavius Romios. I think that Cortavius Romios is a bit of a wild card. I don't love him in his debut, though, against Gaston Bolaños. And if you do watch Cortavius Romios fight, I think he's just a little bit too wild, man. I mean, he took on the bald guy from Canada, whose name has slipped my mind again. And he was getting tagged by a guy that just doesn't really have that great striking. I was doing tape, obviously, for both fighters, and I thought it was going to be a complete wash on the feet. And it wasn't. Romios was getting in brawls and exchanges with this guy, and I just don't love it. I like Romios' grappling a lot more. I would love to see Romios grapple against Gaston Bolaños, but if he doesn't, I think that Bolaños could hurt him, and I think that it's going to kind of start Romios on a pretty bad stretch. Cody Haddon, top 15 potential, for sure. This guy's good. He won his UFC debut against Dan Argueta. Looked great, landed a lot of strikes on Dan Argueta, was able to defend the very good proportion of the takedowns. I guess that would be the wording there. Haddon's good. Haddon's really good. Now, I actually did have some initial concerns about his size at 135 pounds because I was watching some tape on him, and he was looking pretty small compared to quite a few of the Australian guys that he was fighting against. But no, he looked fine against Dan Argueta, really. And that's kind of what I was thinking, because Dan Argueta is a big bantamweight, so it would be a good test to see his true size at this weight class. and he didn't look undersized at all. So we've seen a guy like Cody Haddon who is good striking, very good boxing, good grappling, and can defend takedowns as well. I think that that is kind of like a pretty good recipe for top 15 potential. Plus, he's a young guy, so he's got time to improve, time to get better. Andre Puliev beat Liam Anderson, made me look like an idiot because I did pick Liam Anderson in that fight. I just don't know how I feel about Puliev, man. Like, I know he's like a 6'4" middleweight, and I know he does have pretty decent striking from range, but he really only has those kicks. And I feel like if he took on a guy like Mansour Abdul-Malik, Mansour Abdul-Malik would be able to take him down and beat him up pretty easily. And I have Mansour Abdul-Malik in my wildcard spot, so just kind of doing a little bit of MMA math in that sort of way. I just don't know how I feel about Puliev, man. I feel like this guy would lose to Cody Brundage, you know what I mean? So, it is what it is. Now we have Bogdan Grad. Bogdan Grad had a scrappy fight with Michael Aswell, who I think is pretty good. I did think that I did think that Grad won that fight. Now, a lot of people thought that Aswell did. I thought that Grad did win it. I think Grad's going to be a lot of fun. If you do look at 145, I think it's going to be a little bit of a struggle for him to make it into the rankings. But I think there's still a lot of guys there that Bogdan Grad I would favour him to beat. So I am going to pick him to be in the UFC for multiple years. But I just don't know if he can quite crack the rankings in his career. So I think he's going to have a nice long career in the UFC. But I don't think he's ever going to get a ranked position. But I do think he's going to be able to fight for long enough to go through 2 or 3 contracts in his career. Marco Tulio, he's a middleweight. Very aggressive fighter. In fact, maybe a little bit too aggressive, which is why I just don't know for sure. Now, middleweight is one of those divisions where it just is a lot lower level than 170, where maybe just being a very aggressive, overly aggressive guy from shooter box is just going to do you wonders. But I don't know how I feel about it. I'll be honest. I watched Marco Tulio fight against DeClose. And Tulio was just so aggressive. He was overthrowing everything. I just don't feel great about it. I'll be honest, I just really don't feel that good about it. So I am going to put him in the wildcard position. And now we have Malcolm Wellmaker. What a performance. You know, he knocked out Adam Bramheld in the first round, slumped him moving forwards. Great performance. I think he's top 15 potential. This is a guy with very patient striking, but it's not a bad thing. He's not like Leon Edwards, where he'll just kind of back up and let Bilal Muhammad land strikes at will. Anyway, Malcolm Wellmaker is a good striker. That is very patient, very technical, great straight shots. We saw him land those against against Adam Bramheld, and he can grapple and wrestle. I've seen him offensively wrestle as well in the past. I do think that Wellmaker has top 15 potential. This is a very good prospect. I know I have 2 guys in the top 15 potential here, so maybe this is the future of 135 we're looking at right now, but I think he's going to be quite good. Now, Hyuk Seon Ko, I apologize, I believe is his name. He beat Igor Cavalcanti as a massive underdog. Very proud to say I picked him as that massive underdog, mainly because there was no tape on Cavalcanti, and the tape that I did watch, Cavalcanti looked terrible. But nonetheless, Ko did win that matchup. This guy is a Sambo world champion. He is the first South Korean Sambo world champion. But he's wildcard. Like, he could be this. He really could be, but he could be this. I don't think we're going to see him in the rankings. He's a striker for the most part. I know that he does have the Sambo background, but he doesn't wrestle at all, like ever. Even though he did on the Contender Series. So, anyway, I'm still putting him in the wildcard position. I think he's kind of too good to go 1-3 in the promotion. But I think that this is a guy that's going to win fights. Yeah, here we go. I think he's going to win fights and then lose fights. I think he's just going to kind of keep him going. I think he's probably going to fight a couple of times. A couple of contracts worth in the UFC. Is this the light heavyweight that fought the guy from Italy? I'm trying to make sure it's this him. Is this Kevin Christian? No, this is Jordan Santos. I apologize. Jordan Santos... he's a boxer with good takedown defense at 185. That might be enough, but I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I think Andre Puliev might be able to beat him. Once again, I'll pick Mansour Abdul-Malik to beat him. This is a really bad MMA math way of going about it, but Jordan Santos, I know he looked good against Will Curry, but if you watch any tape on Will Curry, and I should have seen this coming, this is all my bad, by the way. Will Curry just backs up and just does this. He just curls up in the corner every single time anyone throws a strike against him. And in hindsight, I should have seen him coming. I didn't see it coming. A little bit of an embarrassing one, but it is what it is. This next one is Austin Bashi. Now, if he's at 135 pounds, he's top 15 potential. But if he's at 145 pounds, I think he's here. I just don't love Bashi at 145, man. I know that he is a parent. I think I actually talked to Alex Behunian about this, who is a reporter that I believe knows Bashi pretty well. He told me Bashi's not making 135. But I don't know why. He looks small against Dorian Ramos, who I think is a very small featherweight. And I thought that maybe if Bashi can spend some time at the UFC PI, they'll help him cut the weight for the top 15 potential. To help him cut the weight for 135. I just can't see him not fighting at 145. If he's at 145 and not fighting at 135, if he's at 145, I think he's here. If he's at 135, I think he's here. Bashi is not a big featherweight. He's a tiny featherweight, man. Like, you put Bashi in there against Max Holloway. Like, I know that we're talking about like the top of the top and a guy making his debut, but to be that size, I don't love him at 145. But I do like him at 135 though, and this could be the face of 135 going forward. I'm just looking at it now. I know Bashi's 13-0. I know that he has fought incredibly good competition. He's beaten Askar, Pipe Vargas. I mean, he's meant to fight against Tommy McMillan, which would have been unbelievably fun fight. I would have loved to have seen that. I think he's 135 though, guys. Eunice Debin, I know that she knocked out Clark, and Clark just kind of handed her the KO. She just doesn't have anything else other than striking. She's got no grappling. I can't see her going too far. I'd like to see her fight Carly Judas though. That's kind of the fight I need to see. Cullen Cell killed. I might get shot for this one. I don't have the same hype on Cullen Cell killed as everyone else does. I've seen people do these tier lists before, and Cullen Cell killed is in the championship potential. I'm sorry, Quillen. I know that people that know Quillen will be watching this video, and I do apologize. But I'm going to have to put him in the multiple years in the UFC. 155 is a tough division, man. Like, we saw, like, Mateus Rebecki go, what, like 4-0 in the promotion over pretty good guys, and then lose to Diego Ferreira. But he never still got that 15 spot. I mean, there's guys like Matt Frivola was on a streak at one point. He never got the 15 spot. So yeah, I just think that we are going to see Salkild have a great career in the UFC. I just can't really see him going on a 6-0 run against these top guys to get into the top 15 at 155, one of the toughest divisions. He had a good performance, he had a good wrestling performance, but I just can't really see him breaking into that top 15 mold, and I do apologize. But now we have Navajo Sterling. I have seen very, very mixed reviews on Navajo Sterling. I've seen Navajo Sterling here. I've seen Navajo Sterling here. I've even seen Navajo Sterling here. This is crazy, by the way. This is insane. Guys, I think he's good. I think he's really good. I think he's good. I'm putting him here. I think that Navajo Sterling is kind of going to have a Carlos Ulberg type career. And what I kind of mean by this championship potential layer doesn't necessarily mean that I think he's going to become the champ, this and that. I think Carlos Ulberg is here right now. And I'm getting messages from people saying that they think that Navajo Sterling is going to go further than Carlos Ulberg. So to go further than Carlos Ulberg means to be, what, like 2 fights away from the title? 1 fight away from the title? I think he's going to be there at one point, man. I'm very, very high on Navajo Sterling. Now, I do understand there probably is, I guess, maybe some bias there. But from what I've seen of him, I know I think he had a good Contender Series performance as well. People thought he had a bad Contender Series performance. I thought he had a pretty good one. He hasn't really fought the best guys, but he's got that kickboxing background. He's a former kickboxing world champion, multiple-time King of the Ring champion. Carlos Ulberg was a multiple-time King of the Ring champion. Navajo Sterling's going to go far. I do believe in that. And now we have the fighter that defeated the Georgian Otar Tanzalov, Josias Musasa. Wild card. I mean, wild card. This guy impressed me, I'll be honest, against Otar Tanzalov. But he's only got boxing. It's all he's got is boxing. And that's what I do worry about just a little bit, I'll be honest with you guys. Because he doesn't have wrestling and grappling, even though he was able to defend takedowns from Tanzilov. But Tanzilov is not a wrestler, even though he looked like one against... Tanzilov was scared of Musasa. I don't really understand why. But one thing I will say about Musasa was when I was doing tape on him, he doesn't have great technique, I don't think. But I believe that Dana White said that they want to get him in the PI, and that would be great for him. He's one of the most powerful guys at 135 I've seen. This guy was knocking people out with one punch consistently and all the time. Now, I could see him if he gets bad matchups and maybe his manager just doesn't give him favorable fights here. I will be honest with you guys. I couldn't see him up here, but I think he's going to be a wild card. This guy's going to be fun, and I think he's going to have a great career. And now we have Nicole Cagliari. I think she's good. I think she's good. I think she's top 15 potential, I'll be honest with you guys. The thing about Nicole Cagliari is I didn't think that she was that great because I had only seen her old fights. I genuinely hadn't seen any of her recent fights. I couldn't find them on YouTube. So I did pick her opponent, Laframboise. Bad pick. She subbed Laframboise. Laframboise is a really good grappler. And Cagliari is a decent kickboxer. We didn't see all that much kickboxing in her Contender Series fight. I think that Cagliari is the real deal. I'm going to go top 15 potential for her. Now we have Elijah Smith. I think Elijah Smith, I can't put him in the top 15 with a Wellmaker, with Haddon, and with Bashi. But I think this guy's going to go multiple years in the UFC. This guy fights similarly to Wellmaker, where he does have a very good kickboxing style. He beat Aaron Toe from New Zealand, and he looked pretty good doing it. And his father is Gilbert Smith, who was in the UFC. He was on the Ultimate Fighter twice. So he's going to have some pretty good mentorship there, I guess. But I guess everyone's got good coaches. But yeah, I think he's good, man. I think he's got pretty good kickboxing. Taliesin Teixeira, he's going to go in a wild card because I could see this. This is heavyweight MMA we're talking about. Taliesin Teixeira could be here. He's 6'8", with crazy power. He uses his range relatively well. He didn't in his Contender Series fight, I'll admit that. He could be here. He could be here. Or he could be here. This guy could be anywhere. It depends on how his development goes. Does he have good fight IQ? Does he work on that rangy striking? Does he maybe, you know, because the thing is, he's 6'8". I'd like to see him. I'd like to see this guy just kind of with a little bit more muscle at heavyweight. I'm putting him at wild card because he could go anywhere. Now we have a fighter. I'm going to have to take a minute to recognize. I'll be honest with you guys. Oh, this is Atiba Gautier. Okay, so Atiba Gautier is... He showed better takedown defense than I expected. Ridiculous power. Ridiculous power. But I think he's going to have to go here. Because I'm not sure. I think he's only had, what, like 7 pro fights. He's 6-1. He did beat the wrestler from Japan. Showed really good takedown defense in that fight, despite showing really bad takedown defense throughout his whole career. That was a bad pick. I did pick the guy from Japan, by the way. Atiba Gautier showed really bad cardio and takedown defense in his career. I need to stop coping. I think he's a wild card because he's got the power. I'm gonna put him here because no, I'm gonna put him wild card because he could be like this if he takes on wrestlers that are better than the Japanese guy. I think he's gonna be here, but I think I can also see him having like an Abdul Razak Al Hassan sort of career where he either just knocks everyone out in the first round or he doesn't. So I'm going to put him in a wild card. I think it's going to be fun. Abdul Hassanzada, not high on him at all. Tainara, I believe her name's Alexi Tainara. Tainara, she beat Rose Conchacao. Very good performance against Conchacao, who I thought was good. But in hindsight, Conchacao didn't look that great in the fight. She's better than Cagliari though, is she not? I don't know. I'm going to put her in the multiple years in the UFC. I think she's good. I think she's got some promise. But I'm not too sure. Kevin. Yep. Anyways, this is the guy that knocked out Kutsi. Very, very depressed. Very, very depressed. This is Daniel Franza. He's gonna be fun in the promotion. He is. He beat Kutsi. He beat Kutsi. He's here. Oh. Listen, I think Junior Taffa beats him. I know there's bias there. Championship potential for sure for Jacoby Smith. Sorry, I just rushed through those guys. They're not as interesting to me as I think some of the other guys coming up. Jacoby Smith, championship potential. This guy might be one of the better prospects that they just signed ever from the Contender Series. And there's rumors circulating that he can maybe make 155. Now, I think 155 would potentially be a tougher division to become the champion in. But this guy has all the skills. You know, this is a wrestler with I believe D1 wrestling. But the striking's coming along. Now, he doesn't have technical striking. We haven't seen that so far, but the striking is improving. You watch some of his earlier fights on, I believe he fought for Fury FC, and then you watch his more recent fights. This guy's striking is coming along, and I love the wrestling out of him. Very good prospect, championship potential for him. Torres Finney, I love Torres Finney. I think we all love Torres Finney. Here's the thing about Torres Finney. And this is going to sound absolutely ridiculous to say, because this guy must walk around a very heavy weight, and he must still cut a lot of weight to make 185. But he is 5'6". He is 5'6". Can he make 170? Like, can he? Because I think against some of the bigger middleweights, this guy, he's going to look small. He looks really, really small against Cam Ralston. And I was like, dude, this guy looks like he could be at welterweight. But then he looked fine against the other guy from Spain he fought. I think he's a wild card, man, because the striking just isn't there. I know he does have KOs on the feet, or at least he's got that one highlight KO on the feet. He just really is a little bit one-dimensional. You know, like, I love Torres Finney as much as the next guy. We all do. But at the end of the day, it's just hard to tell because he's 5'6", you know, at this weight class. This guy has genuinely slipped my mind as well. I'm gonna have to think for a few moments about who this is. This is Carlos, who is the guillotine merchant. He looked pretty good, but he was also getting outstruck. He's a DAS merchant. He's not a guillotine merchant. He's a DAS merchant. Is that enough to win more than 5 fights at 145? 145 is a talented division. I'm going to say no. This is Dio Nurgazai. I don't think he's that good. This is Artem Bekatov. I mean, like, here's the thing. Here's the thing about Artem. I do love him. I do. And we are best friends. He still hasn't replied to my DM. But we were talking before he was in the Contender Series. So maybe he's just a bit too important for me now. But that's fine. I could see him being here. I just don't know if he's ever going to be able to get to the Alex Pereira situation. The way that his career could work out perfectly is if he was to fight someone like Brenton Ribeiro in his first fight, and then they just put him in there with Guskov, who just isn't a technical striker at all. I don't know. I'm going to put him here. I'm going to put him in the wild card. He could go anywhere. Cody Steele, this guy's good. Do I think he's champ potential? It's hard to tell because he's only like 7-0 so far in his career, but he does have great grappling. I think he's here. This is another guy whose name has genuinely slipped my mind. Embarrassing. Islam Dulatov. Islam Dulatov's potentially here, potentially here, potentially here. I think he's ranked potential though because he is good. I'm going on Tapology right now as we speak on my phone to find these guys whose names I've forgotten. This is Jonathan Mikalev. Jonathan Mikalev. He's better than I thought he was. I'll say that. I don't know if he's got the ranked potential though, guys. I think he's multiple years in the UFC. Yadia Devali. He just doesn't have the striking, does he? He just doesn't have the striking. But I think he's got good enough grappling. He's not a guillotine merchant like my boy Carlos here. Luis Garule is champ potential. Nick Klein, I think, is only 6 pro fights now at this point. And so it's hard to tell. This is awkward. It's the end of the video, so I feel like if you watch this for 28 minutes, you're pretty locked in at this point to wait for me to find out who these guys are. But Nick Klein, like, it's going to be rough, man, for him, because he doesn't have good striking. But it's 185, and 185 is such a terrible division, man. Like, it's just so bad. I'm going to put him at here. Alright, here we go. Who are these guys? Is this Mario Pinto? And I didn't recognize... Okay, Mario Pinto's like one of the best prospects signed, but that's awkward. And then, aside from Mario Pinto, who's this fella? From week 8. That's awkward. Mario Pinto, I think, has got championship potential. Alberto Montez. His name's not Carlos. Oh, that's terrible. David Martinez. That doesn't look like David Martinez. He doesn't look like this. What? It's not the same guy, is it? Anyway, David Martinez, top 15 potential as well. This guy's a very good striker. Let me know what you guys think. This is my tier list here. I did worry about that. That actually was my concern, was that I was going to be in the middle of the video and just not recognize the names. But I think this is a pretty good indication of how I feel. Maybe, I guess, now that I've put certain guys in certain places, I could swap them around. But I think this is it. I do believe that Luis Gurule is championship potential. I do believe that Mario Pinto is championship potential. These guys are good. This is a good list. There's a lot of good fighters signed. A lot of fighters signed that are going to be up and down. But yeah, it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. It ended up being a 30-minute video, not 40-minute video. I'll see you guys in the next one.